to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith? Then grab your Bible and let's get started.
Shalom, and welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom, where we're working towards becoming a harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I am truly thankful for every last one of you who's able to join me on the live premiere and all those who join me on the replay. Like I always say, everyone, I am grateful for you all. Now, I hope that you are ready to join a family that does not mind searching the scriptures, a family that does not mind challenging the religious system's teachings that we have been learning for hundreds of years, a family that is open to being a lifetime student of the Bible. It's really easy to join this family. You will hit that free subscribe button below. You will hit that bell as a reminder of you to let you know when I am live and when the video has been uploaded. And this is the way that we support Reconcile the Kingdom at this time. This is a family that we are most definitely working on building and growing by you sharing and let people know right now that we are live. And this is always the best way to get it to me, because there was one point when I was recording the videos and it felt so superficial, and I wanted to. There's nothing wrong with recording when you have to, because there's times we have to, but I'd rather do it live so you can see all the mistakes and the flaws and stuff that I do make. So I want to start off reading recap. We always begin with a recap. We discussed last week Abraham's other children, the 6 other children that many people do not speak of or talk about or know of. So there is one of those, Midian, one of the children from that bloodline that is particularly shows up in the book of Exodus and also in the book of Joshua. So learning about all this is important. We also did a little math last week. We calculated from the information how old Abraham was, calculating how old Isaac was, from the time that Abraham died, and identifying that Abraham was alive when Esau and Jacob was born. He was actually alive, according to the calculations that we calculated, all the way up to mid-teen years of Esau and Jacob, of his twin grandsons. So we figured all that out. And then finally, we ended basically with Esau selling his birthright to Jacob. Now, what we do notice about this area in particular is that this is the beginning of the prophecy that Yehovah gave Rebekah, that the elder would be serving the younger. It's not full in its maturity at this moment, and we will continue to see all the information, but that was the beginning. Actually, the beginning probably was when Jacob grabbed Esau's heel when Esau was born. But we most definitely see the beginning with him selling his birthright to Jacob. Then he despised it. He didn't like it. And so we're going to continue on today. I hope you have your Bible. Hope you have your pen, your paper, and don't forget your highlighter. It's important to highlight what I'll call key points or highlighted points in the chapter. We're on chapter 26. We will not finish chapter 26 with the time allotted. We will get in all the information that we can get today, and then next week we will finish Genesis chapter 26. I'm going to start. 26:1. And there were a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And Yehovah appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in a land which I shall tell thee of, sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee, unto thy seed, I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father, and I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars in heaven. And I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. Remember, Isaac was residing in Beer Laharoi, which means well. And then there was a famine in the land where he was. It sounds like Isaac's first thought was to go to Egypt. Um, and you ask, why do I say this? Because Jehovah tells him not to go into Egypt. And it seems like whenever there's a famine, Egypt is the place to go. Here, Isaac, before Isaac, Abraham went into Egypt. After Isaac, his son Jacob in his bloodline goes, 70 souls go into Egypt. Although I don't believe, if I can remember this correctly, Jacob did not want to go at first, but Jehovah told him to go ahead and go. So we know that this is the instructions for Isaac for him not to go to Egypt, but go to Gerar. Jehovah shared with him that this is a land that would be given to his descendants. So this is the same conversation that Abraham had with Jehovah, letting him know that you will be prosperous, you will multiply, you have the seed. And so Isaac is the promised seed that all this will be coming through from Abraham, then Isaac, and then of course we know Jacob and going forth. But one thing that stands out is that Abraham obeyed the voice of Jehovah. He kept the charge, he kept the commandments, the statutes, and the laws. So many people do not believe that there was any commandments and no laws or anything before Moses received the instruction from Jehovah, but clearly the word is telling us there was a standard. Matter of fact, there was a standard that began in the garden with Adam and Eve all the way to the book of Revelation. So there is and has always been a standard to live by. And then I decided to do a word study. Remember, word studies are important to your study. I looked up the word kept. So in kept is H8014 in your Strong's Shamar. So he kept, which means he guarded. He didn't just keep it like we keep it. He guarded the commandments, the statutes, and the laws. He guarded. And so that's important to understand because this is what we're told about the Sabbath to keep. And we use, and that keep is the same thing that that Abraham did, guard the Sabbath day. So it's important to remember, and it's important to do word study. Moving on to verse number 7. And the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister. For he feared to say, She is my wife, lest, said he, the men of the place shall kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass when he had been there for a long time, this is not a short distance, this is a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of the window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. So most definitely, this is a very, very interesting verses, especially verse 8. For whatever Isaac and Rebekah was doing, it most definitely was not the behavior for siblings. And the king of the Philistines witnessed this with his own eyes. It was not like a servant came and told him this was going on, because this was not appropriate behaviors for siblings to do. Even then, again, there was a standard. So I did another word study on the word Spartan. The reason why I did that is because We also see the word sporting, where Ishmael and Isaac. These sporting had two different definitions. The word sporting here is H6711, and you will go through the definitions and it will say caressing. So the sporting that Isaac and Rebecca was doing was caressing, which is more of a loving relationship, romantic relationship, versus Ishmael and Isaac, where that's play, mockery, joking that Ishmael was doing towards Isaac, which made Sarah highly upset. Now, I also have a question which may not be answered, but I'm hoping that eventually, if I get through Genesis or even further throughout the Bible, um, this verse here, it doesn't sound like Isaac and Jacob was really born because their children were not like involved or engaging. I could be wrong, but I do know that Genesis is not in order. And I also wonder about the verses in the chapter, or they're in order, because they would have seen the children, although they're probably children among the camp, but they would have seen a difference in the children. But that's one of my questions that will go on my list, and hopefully I would get the answer for that. We're going on to verse number 9. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, for surety she is thy wife. And how sayest thou, she is my sister? And Isaac said unto him, Because I said, Lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? Doesn't it sound familiar? One of the people might have lightly have lined with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guiltness upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Surely Jehovah stepped in and gave him favor. Able to recognize the favor, how Jehovah still stepped in, although Isaac had lied. This is the same lie that Abraham has spoken to Abimelech, the king of Philistines of his time. Remember, Abimelech is a title, just like Pharaoh is over Egypt. So Abimelech is a title of the king of the Philistines. And so he is doing the same thing that Abraham had did. In other words, Abimelech of this time is saying the same thing Abimelech of Abraham's time, that someone could have lied with her and made her their wife, and that would have been sin upon them. And so he had to warn his people not to even go near this man or harm any of them on the kingdom's account. Again, you will find this in Genesis chapter 20 of Abraham, same thing. So we have Abraham experiencing this, we have Isaac experiencing this, and I'm pretty sure Abraham has some type of conversation about things that he went through to his son Isaac. Now we on verse number 12. Isaac sowed in that land. Remember where he is. And he received in that same year 100-fold. And Jehovah blessed him, and the man waxed great. And he went forward and grew until he became very great. I know that's a language we don't normally use, not English, but at this time, very great was exceptional. For he had possession of flocks and possessions of herds and a great store of servants. And the Philistines envied him. They were not happy about this. Isaac was blessed so much, like his father Abraham. Remember, Abraham was very great. And we have to keep in mind that Isaac inherited all that Abraham had. And Abraham had a lot. I remember Abraham had trained servants among his camp, and I'm pretty sure that Isaac had the same thing. Now, the Philistines are like, Now, how do you come to this land and become greater than us? How does something like this even happen? Now, some people are wondering, how can Isaac be blessed and he lied and things like that. But one thing is that we can't pull from the Torah what was considered the law at that time back here to this time. And although there was a standard, but we don't know what all those standards was, but we do know there were some. And besides, we have no idea whether Isaac repented or Abraham repented, because I do not believe every detail is written in the word. I believe what's written in the word is for us to know and for us to learn and glean from. So I believe that Isaac was following the same righteousness as Abraham was. If you remember in Genesis chapter 24, verse 14, um, Eleazar identified Isaac as a servant of Yehovah. So clearly, Isaac was following what his father was teaching. So Abraham and Isaac were walking with Jehovah and they were blessed. And even in the midst of their faults, they were blessed. Now, we on verse 15. For all the wells which his father's servant had digged in the days of Abraham, his father, the Philistines, had stopped them and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of the water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father. For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. So we don't have a timeline exactly here, how long Abraham passed away, that the Philistines put the earth back into the wells that Abraham had digged. And we know wells are pretty far down. So we don't know what the timeline is. But Isaac again is mightier, greater than the men and all of the Philistine kingdom. If you remember, this is the same issue that the children of Israel had in Egypt. They were mightier than the people in Egypt. And this is the same replay. Isaac again inherited all the servants and everything that Abraham left. And then he got 100-fold. Remember, the 100-fold was flocks, herds, and a store of servants. So he became extremely larger and mightier and greater than the Philistines at this time and was told to leave. Now, he went to the valley and began, remember, the wells are stopped up at this time. So let's see what Isaac does. Verse number 19. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of it Esek, because they strove with him, contention between Isaac's servants and the herdmen of Gerar. And they digged another well. Isaac's servants dig another well and strove for that also from the same people. And he called the name of it Sitnah. And he removed from thence. So he moved again and digged another well, for that they strove not. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now Jehovah hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. So he's going to even grow even more in this land. and he went up from thence to Beersheba. If you noticed, Isaac remained humble throughout this situation. He remained humbled. He didn't fight over the wells. He didn't fight the Hermans. He didn't gather up his armed and trained servants and fought over the well. He went and found another place. The first one was Esek and didn't happen. The second was Sidna, did not happen. And then he come along to this third and final well, Rehoboth, which they did not fight him. And then there was peace. And he realized that this is the place where he needs to be because there is peace. By the way, I'm hoping that Beersheba came into your remembrance of that name because this is the place that Hagar and Ishmael went to after Sarah told Abraham that they have to go because Ishmael was mocking Isaac. I'm going to read that verse to you. It's Genesis chapter 21, verse 14. So Abraham got up early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder and gave her the boy and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. So I kind of wonder, this is another question that I wondered about, if Ishmael and Isaac had some type of interaction with one another, because I've noticed the places that Ishmael is going. The other place called Ber Laha Ber Bir Laharoi is another place where Hagar was when she left, when she was pregnant with Ishmael. And that's where that name came from. And now he's where Beersheba, where when she ran, when she was told to leave with her son. Just those are the questions and things that come into my head, and I write them down. And then if I find the answer, I find the answer. If I don't, I'm still at peace if I don't find the answer. And those are the things that we should have when we're reading. So when we're reading a chapter, we should be looking at cross references. What other book is this connected to, or letter, whether it's new or the old Tanakh or the Brit Hadashah? We should be able to get our key points out of it. We should be doing our word study. We should be asking questions, and then we should be saying, "Is there some insight that I got from this?" Like last week, we got the math and we got the insight, the understanding that Ishmael and I'm sorry, Esau and Jacob was still around the time that Abraham was still around. So those are the type of things. And what if anything that I find anything in this chapter that that I want to or able to apply to my life. So those are the type of things that we should just keep in mind when we're reading. Again, I'm working on something to have as a tool to help people focus on those things. I'm working on that. So we're going to end chapter 26 right here on today. So we ended with verse 23. I just want to remind everyone that Reconcile the Kingdom is on Spotify, and on Spotify on Thursday at noon. We will begin. Joshua will be going into, yeah, on the 27th at noon. Every Thursday, Joshua will be on Spotify at noon. And that's also to kind of help get prepared for the book of Judges that we're going to be starting in the month of June. And you also can find that on the playlist on YouTube. I encourage you to do that. I want to remind you that we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and YouTube podcasts. So those are the areas that you most definitely find Reconcile with the Kingdom. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday, because Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m., we are on season 3 of What You Should Jesus for some had taught. Going through the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and maybe touching to, yes, we will be touching into the book of Acts when we get there, but following his footsteps, understanding what he taught and what he did so we can model that same thing. As always, man lives man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yehovah. I pray that you have a blessed rest of the week and thank you for joining me on today.